So it's Juneteenth, and people are arguing. I'm not going to tell people what to think unless you're wrong. Like, if I will tell you what to think if you're like, no, I think Green Day can be classified as punk. Get out. Get out of my, I'll deport you to where your ancestors came from. Scotland, where are they? I don't care what creed, color, whatever. Out. Totally not joking. Don't mistake the smile as any kind of indication of facetiousness. But I don't know why. First off, I think people are on, some on the right are mad over Juneteenth because they say it's trying to compete with Independence Day. First off, when we moved down here to Texas in 2013, Juneteenth was already a thing down here, way before the Trump administration kicked it off into becoming a federal observance. It was a big thing here because it's kind of like Texas centric, right? You had, after the Emancipation Proclamation, we didn't have Twitter. We didn't have, all of that, all these ways for information to spread. And so in Texas, they had something like 200,000 people who were freed by executive decree. You had Union troops come into Galveston, and it was Freedom Day, and then they just started calling it Juneteenth because they had not known that, the Emancipation Proclamation had been passed and that they were free, and that's how it happened. And there's been stuff like celebrations and different things that have happened like all over Texas. I mean, going pretty far back. So this it's not a new thing, but it was kind of Texas centric. Did you notice that too, Kane? When you moved down here, it was very Texas centric because growing up in Missouri, I never heard of it, but it was already known in Texas. Now, I think the rub comes when it's referred to as like the second Independence Day or something like that. I mean, clearly for the people who didn't know they were free, I guess, it seems like another day of freedom for them. So the opposition to this, where is the opposition coming from? The idea that it would take away from or take over Independence Day? Because I don't know if I see that happening. I mean, I wouldn't support it, but I don't know that I see that happening. Let me tell you how I look at it. That might be easier. Should I say it exactly how I said it on break, Kane? Or
Yeah, you should actually.
Okay. I will. You're going to have to forgive me. Actually, I'm not asking permission and I'm not apologizing. I will take every opportunity to teabag on Democrats, every single chance I get over losses. Every time they have an L, I want to be there. Now, yes, I shouldn't celebrate Schadenfreude, but I think that when something that they have done wrong for eons is undone and reversed, that's worth celebrating. Because it wasn't Democrats that freed the slaves. It was Republicans that freed the slaves. Just like it wasn't Democrats that supported women's right to vote. It was Republicans that supported women's right to vote. It was never Democrats that have been on the right side of history for any of that. It was Democrats who put Japanese Americans in internment camps. It was Democrats who sent indigenous Americans on the trail of genocide. And it was Democrats who haven't done anything to allow indigenous Americans to own their own property on reservations to this day. You had Barack Obama and Joe Biden in the White House for 8 years, and they never did anything about making, quote unquote, Juneteenth a federal observation, a federal holiday. That didn't happen until the Trump administration, and they put the gears into effect. And it was signed in June of 21. Biden wouldn't have been able to sign it had the Trump administration not done it. Love him or hate him, he got it started. So it's another Republican W against another Democrat L. That's how I look at it. I like celebrating whenever Democrat statism is ended. Whenever a Democrat's statist agenda is thwarted, I love celebrating that. And I just like celebrating things because I'm typically a very cynical person. And, there's not a lot to, if you look at the headlines lately, there's not a whole hell of a lot to celebrate if we're being honest, right? You got crazy inflation. You got a deluge at the border. It's all insane. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. But this is something that I don't think is a DEI or CRT or anything like that. In fact, it's all of that stuff that allowed what it undid to happen in the first place. The left has always made an idol of race. The left has always made an idol of skin color. They make an idol of gender. They make an idol of attraction. They make an idol of everything except God. And that was kind of sort of the end of it with this. The last group of people who were told that they were freed. And it was slow going, this being spread across the country. There was a very remote corner of the former Confederacy, and they didn't have a lot of Union troops there, and the information wasn't going fast. And so the enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation was slow going as a result of that. And so status quo was continuing. By 1865, they said there were about 250,000 enslaved people still in Texas. And so what this was, you had Major General Gordon Granger, who issued the order informing Texas residents that they were free. And this has always been a stand against statism. And I like celebrating that. I love it that that the United States has so many observances of sticking it to statists. Am I wrong in looking at it that way? Because that's how I look at it. I also think that there's a couple of other things at play here. I don't want to see the right become wholly engrossed with us versus them mentalities. And I realize that in a lot of commentary anymore, it's oversaturated and it gets purposefully dumbed down and it's so stupid. And so people have got to stand out. So they say completely ridiculous things and straw man up some kind of conflict for them to stake a flag on one side or the other so that they can try to make themselves appear singular in such an effort as a way for clicks. And I think that kind of contributes to some of it too. But I've never looked at this as being an observance of race. Even since when we first moved to Texas and I was hearing about Juneteenth because they mentioned it in our kids' school. It was a Christian school, very conservative Christian school. And I don't think that acknowledging Juneteenth means that you are somehow rejecting the principles of our republic or that you are rejecting American freedom. I mean, you're celebrating freedom. That's a very American thing. Uniquely American. And so because of this, and I think because of the arguing, it's allowing Democrats to try to hijack it and claim it as a victory of theirs and then festoon it all up with DEI and all this other stuff and exploit it and use it for like race hustling when it really literally was their policies that made it necessary in the first place. That's the irony of ironies with all of this. So I've never looked at it as an observance or some kind of holiday of race. I've always viewed it as, wow, this is celebrating freedom. And it's celebrating another win over the left, which I will not at all pass up an opportunity to acknowledge, and nor should you. You need to remind people of all the wins that people who are pro-Republic and pro-Constitution have over these Marxist nerds. I think that's a great thing. Of course, one of the reasons why this, I think, particular year it's being so exploited is because Democrats are performing so horrifically with black voters. And so they've got the talking points out. They've got the surrogates out there. They've been out there all day long. And they try to look at Republicans are upset over Juneteenth. I actually don't know anyone except for a few, like people who live their entire lives on social media that are upset about it or that think that it's somehow robbing the celebration of American independence to recognize, hey, we also did this. There's not a scarcity of pride, and nor should there be, or a scarcity of opportunity to claw back power for the people. And I think when you do it, it should be celebrated. It should be. And you should also add when you talk about it exactly what I did. Yes, I love the fact that we ended Democrat tyranny and we won against them because they wanted to keep people enslaved. Yes, we love the fact that we ended that Democrat tyranny. Yes, it's a wonderful thing. I'm so glad that Democrats have gone from wanting to keep people on plantations to now celebrating their full emancipation. Yay, good for you. You guys have come a long way. That's how you should talk about it because that's accurate. Historically accurate, spiritually accurate, intellectually accurate. It's accurate. That is the way to talk about it. So if there's race involved, it's because Democrats wanted to literally deny people rights because of the color of their skin. Shockingly, they're the same party who kept Dexter Taylor in Rikers because of the color of his skin. Oh gosh, you can't have a black conservative gun owner. Ooh. Make sure you hit his give, send, go because he needs all the help he can get.